The other important aspect which comes up is the appraisal factors, which are on the back of the form. And those are where you identify behaviors that you observe in the current position, but they identify predictive elements of behavior and performance at the next higher level. Too often they're looked at as just how you do the job that you're in, but they are really intended to be predictive of that higher level. Are you ready for something next and higher beyond that? And those are very, a lot of employees put a lot of stock in those factors. They have a role when you deal with promotion opportunities and different things as well. So it's important, going backwards, if you will, to the feedback, that if you have ratings that you've had and you've observed a change, it's very important for you to communicate those changes, because when you do that appraisal form, it should not be a surprise to the employees. And last important part of the appraisal form is the award justification. If you have an employee that you are going to recommend for an award, then you do fill that block in. Too often that you see supervisors that just provide comments just because they want to say something, but they have no intent on recognizing or submitting or recommending the employee for recognition. And therefore you often have a lot of difficulties or what would appear to be miscommunication. So that being said, an award justification should be reasons why an employee is being recommended for an award, and it shouldn't contain any negative comments.
But what if an employee is unable to meet performance expectations? That's where a performance improvement plan comes into play.
A performance improvement period or performance improvement plan, but is commonly referred to as a PIP. The PIP is a process that you go through when you actually have an employee that's performing at an unacceptable level. I will say that it's very important, don't wait until the end of the rating cycle to document unacceptable performance. You need to act when you first notice that you're having problems. And you need to start some pre-PIP activity, some counseling, some documentation, a little bit of email. An email can be a very effective documentation method. You might need to provide additional guidance, maybe some training, different types of things and assistance, maybe some on-the-job training, mentoring from another senior person in the organization. Act when you start to see the problems, but it can be that informal process. But once you reach a point, and there's no magic number, it doesn't happen in 2 weeks, it's not automatic in 30 days or 60 days, but at some point you realize that those informal efforts to improve performance are not going to be successful, and they're not successful. So you've got to cross the line and move over into the actual PIP process, in which a supervisor documents an unacceptable rating out of cycle. Don't wait until the end of the rating cycle, but you document that unacceptable rating, and then you document and create the performance improvement period, in which you identify very specifically each element that's not being met, what that element requires, why it's not being met, and what it takes to be met. And then you identify the period. A PIP can be as little as 30 to 45 days, or it can be as much as 120 or 180 days, just depending on what the nature of the work is in which the unacceptable performance is being observed. It may be more than one element, but it can be only one. Any one element in which performance is unacceptable requires an unacceptable rating. And at the end of the PIP period, the performance improvement period, or the PIP, then another rating is done. And you have one of two things. The employee has improved performance to an acceptable level, and off we go cooking with fire. If they have not improved to an acceptable level, all of that documentation that you have done during the PIP, which is weekly or at least bi-weekly feedback, documented. During that PIP period, it's very intense feedback from the supervisor and guidance to make absolutely certain that this employee cannot perform these duties. And at the end of the PIP, if their performance remains unacceptable, then all of that documentation through the PIP is what is now used to support a personnel action, a reassignment, a demotion, or even possibly a removal. So it's a very time-consuming process. It should be reserved for employees that are just in over their head. They're incapable of performing the duties, regardless of their best efforts. It should not be used for someone that can do the job, but for whatever reason is choosing not to. And sometimes you face that where the employee is being a little passive-aggressive. But truly, a PIP is appropriate when someone just cannot do the job.